And good morning, Thailand, for Thursday, episode number 24. Thank you very much for joining us. And we'd like to introduce, for the very first time on the program, sort of a friend of Thaiger. This is Christopher Lau. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how's it going? Good morning, Tim.
Can I call you Chris?
Sure, just so you can.
But yes, it's definitely Christopher. And he's from Sea Lau Travel, does a fantastic vlog, and he's got his own YouTube page. The link's, of course, under this particular program. Been around sort of Asia, but you're probably the only person actually in this room who's got some real social media qualifications. You used to work for LinkedIn.
Yeah, I used to work for LinkedIn, selling e-learning for LinkedIn for about 2 years, yeah.
Okay, but you got away from the 9 to 5 and traveled Asia.
Absolutely, yeah. I utilize essentially everything that I've learned, and now I work with tourism boards, hotels, and it gives me the ability to travel Asia, you could say, or the world.
But here you are in Thailand and online today from Bangkok, from Integrity Legal. We'd like to welcome Ben Hart. Hi, Ben.
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic. Ben, we've got plenty to talk to you about. Just wanted to get some housekeeping out of the way. Firstly, if you do want to actually ask us a question online, it would be best if you actually type the word question in caps, because there's so much other sort of, not spam, but sort of general conversation in the comments. So if you do have a question to ask, please write the word question. Also, I just wanted to remind everybody that we're not the Library of Congress. We don't know the answers to everything. With people like Ben online, of course, we can answer some specific legal questions, but we don't know everything. And when it comes to specific issues about your situation, we're not really in a situation to give you an immediate answer about anything. Also, just wanted to mention that yesterday, French nationals who are over the age of 55 are going to be vaccinated by their embassy, or by their country via their embassy here in Thailand. So I think it's a lot of push for some other foreign embassies to help out citizens. I know the US, Ben, have been pushing hard. Do you know anything about that situation? I think the US embassy has basically said, we're not doing it.
Yeah, and actually the Charge d'Affaires, the best of my knowledge, actually I just read the letter yesterday. The Charge here in Bangkok did a letter basically saying, look, we're not going to be doing that. We'll certainly be pushing from, I'm paraphrasing, but basically the letter stated, we as the embassy will certainly be pushing for, equity with respect to, foreign American nationals here in Thailand, also receiving the vaccine sort of in the same time frames as Thai nationals and other expats. But direct vaccination or any kind of direct vaccination program through the embassy, I don't see that being likely anytime in the near future, if at all.
Yeah, I think the same with the Australian embassy. I did a bit of an aside yesterday on Thailand News Today after doing the story, Australian embassy. But we've certainly been mentioning them in the past with my own self-interest. I'm being vaccinated next Monday. How about you?
I haven't been yet.
Are you going to be vaccinated?
Being a foreigner, I can't, unfortunately, right now. I'm on a list, though.
You're on the list?
I'm on a list. I don't know what list. My wife signed me up, so crossing my fingers.
You got the Thai wife, makes things a lot easier sometimes to get through the paperwork.
Yep.
Generally, Ben, the whole rollout of vaccines for foreigners who have been promised vaccination has perhaps not been as well handled or as transparent as we would have liked.
Well, yeah, I think there's room for criticism on the vaccination rollout generally, and I think with respect to foreigners, yeah, I think there are a lot of folks that are especially concerned. I don't know if there's any blame to go around anywhere. I just think the situation is what it is. I do believe that the government is trying to act as quickly as possible. I think everybody's acting in good faith, but the situation's just not a particularly desirable one.
Okay, how are we going with comments there? Chris, anything coming through that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, there's a couple questions, I guess. When is the Intervac Thai going to be open again? It's a pain not being French now.
Yes, that the Intervac Thailand website, yeah, that's just part of what we were talking about. It's been a bit hit and miss, I think, and all we can say, I think, generally to answer these questions is just be patient and persistent. We do know, for example, on the island of Phuket, some 12,000 foreigners have already had their first dose of vaccine. So it is working. Just be a little bit persistent if you can. I just also wanted to mention something that I think you addressed in your vlog this morning, Ben. I'll read this out basically from the Bangkok Post. The pros and cons of a proposal that Bangkok be locked down for 7 days to contain the soaring numbers of COVID-19 infections have to be weighed carefully. This CCSA says that the lockdown proposal to restrict people's movement in Bangkok was discussed at the meeting on Wednesday. They're talking about it. They've sort of put it out there for the public to react. I'm actually going to go to a graph as Jay hurtles back to the computer. I'm just going to show people the graph of the rise of COVID in Thailand. As you can see, the trend is just sort of going up, and we've now, for the past 2 days, had more than 4,000 cases. The good news, Ben, is that the cases in prisons has slowed down a lot. So these are clusters in and around the provinces of Thailand, and down in the south too is a big problem. While at the same time, in 7 days, they're talking about opening up Phuket to general travel. So anyway, you've seen that trend on the graph. It doesn't really look good, Ben. Do you think the July the 1st is actually going to go ahead?
I mean, I just did a video on the, there was an article in Bangkok Post where they basically said that they were talking about the means and methods for sort of rolling back the Phuket opening. My personal take on it right now is I think it will go ahead. Exactly what it looks like remains to be seen. As far as, it was interesting. The devil's in the details with this stuff.
Of course.
It was interesting to me that it was sort of a phased roll back. If it gets rolled back, it won't just be, or presumably it won't just be instantaneous. They have various ways that they would roll it back. Now, the question becomes, and one of the biggest issues I think the Thai government has had with respect to this is perception management. I mean, I'm here to tell you, I saw a steep drop off of folks looking for Thai visas, Thai immigration advisory services, all kinds of things in mid-April when we saw them sort of do an about face with respect to the reduction of overall quarantine time. I mean, the problem at this point, to my mind, is not whether or not it comes off, but it's managing that perception by the outside world, the tourism, sort of the potential tourists to come in. And I think that probably, I hesitate to say it could be done better. I don't know how it could be done better. I'm not really an expert on that, but perception is really key to all of this.
Sure, Chris.
Yeah, we have a question here. So someone asks, "Hey Tim, I've spoken to the Thai embassy here in Canada, and they continue to tell me the Sandbox isn't confirmed and won't give me more info. Do they just not want us there?"
I think the issue there, Ben, is that it hasn't been included in the Royal Gazette, so the embassies haven't been formally informed. So I think we've repeated that over the past week. So yeah, things like the certificate of entry, you won't be able to get those until it has been formally announced in the Royal Gazette, which should be in the next couple of days. I would have thought, Ben, that the worst case scenario for the Sandbox is that they reopen on July the 1st and then a couple of weeks later go, I think we're going to close again. That would just be the worst situation.
Well, that was borne out with the reduction of quarantine. I mean, I've kind of thought to myself the last 2 months roughly, it almost would have been better, I think, for the tourism industry if they would never have implemented the policy of the 10-day, 7-day sort of stratified quarantine and then rolled it back. Again, hindsight's 2020, and I really don't exactly love second guessing what they're doing because I can't say I would have done anything any better. How do you predict the future? But yeah, as far as perception management, I think that did a real, if nothing had changed, if we had just stayed with 14-day quarantine, I think the perception would be, at least among international tourists or folks that are outside of Thailand, I think the current perception would probably be a little better. is that anyone's fault? No, but to sort of implement and then roll back, I think that causes more consternation among the public than anything.
All right, just reminding you, Ben, that we're actually not standing in front of a jury, so I'm going to ask you to keep your answers a little bit shorter.
Sorry. Okay.
So we can get through as many comments as we can. I know Chris has got some comments lined up, but we're going to take a quick break here on Good Morning Thailand. We thank you very much for joining us. This is episode number 24, and we will be back right after this break. And welcome back to Good Morning Thailand here from our studios at the Thaiger. We've got Ben Hart from Integrity Legal all the way from Bangkok, and sitting next to me, Christopher Lau from Sea Lau Travel. Great to have you here, Chris. Now, Chris, you've actually had a specific issue with this whole situation because you do a number of things, and you've got some collaborations with some other Instagrammers and YouTubers, and you put together this fantastic tour. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what's happened with that?
So yeah, we launched this tour like 3-4 months ago, and over 300 people has shown interest with it, with their email addresses saying they've been vaccinated. And once we actually launched this tour officially about 2 weeks ago, the sign-up process where we're showing people around Phuket specifically in August, September, October, we've had no sign-ups. I think there's a fear still of coming out to Thailand, and we're not sure what to do. I actually spoke to my friend last night. He's a pretty big photographer in Bangkok, James, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any feedback you can give on that, or a little confidence that can boost viewers' thoughts on coming to Thailand.
Yeah, come on, give us some confidence, Ben.
Well, yeah, for those that know me, I tend to be known as kind of a pessimist, but I definitely like to hope for the best, plan for the worst. But to those out there who are looking to come to Thailand, once you're here, it's actually pretty all right.
Of course.
You sort of get through all the hurdles, it's fantastic, frankly. And honestly, there are certain places, especially some beaches I've been to recently, Cham, even down GMT, and that really are great because, frankly, there's no crowding. There's nobody around.
Yeah, as we say to people, you're never going to see Thailand as good as you'll see it now. If you are one of these early pioneers, you're going to come to a country and you're going to see it sort of pristine and quiet like no one's seen it for 30 years. So there are some real upsides for the early adopters. Admittedly, there's going to be some hoops. We just had one guy, Fire Guy, just sent in a question saying, when will the Phuket Sandbox program be recognised in the Royal Gazette? I think, Ben, that should happen Thursday, tonight or tomorrow.
Sorry, I had a delay there. What did you just say?
So the Gazette, we think the inclusion in the Royal Gazette after it was formally accepted by the Cabinet on Tuesday should happen today or tomorrow? Well, looks like Ben's just got some line problems there. So while he's just sorting that out, we'll just hammer on with some other questions. Chris?
Yeah, we can, let's see. So one is, what would happen to tourists if there is a COVID outbreak?
Yeah, what would happen to tourists? This is part of the problem, that you don't want a situation where they open up the country. July the 1st happens, the Sandbox happens, and then suddenly they have to close things down. So, yeah, Ben's just sorting things out. I think he's back. Did you pull the plug out there, Ben?
Yep, sorry. That I don't know what happened there. That it just seemed to kind of fall out.
I told you can't watch porn and do this at the same time. It's impossible.
I'm not a great multitasker. What can I say?
Guilty.
All right. Let's get to our next question, Chris.
I think that was a good question. I don't know for Ben. Or I mean, I think it was asked a few times. What happens to tourists if there is a COVID outbreak? What are your thoughts?
They're going to round you up and throw you back on an aeroplane. What's going to happen?
Right. I think last year is the model. So we have a good idea. What would presumably happen is sort of an emergency decree would be rolled out, or presuming the emergency decree still exists, and then they basically just say, look, you can either stay or go, but presumably flights would be truncated. You're not going to have so much access. It may take longer to get out. But as far as staying, I mean, people that stayed last year, I know numerous folks that just hung on and they've been fine. So, it really wasn't too bad. Some people just got a very extended vacation. But do I think that someone would get stuck in Thailand or be forced out of Thailand? No, because I think we can sort of learn from last year that that's not in fact the case.
And the optics wouldn't be good. I was just going to ask you too, Ben, seeing we've got a sort of a half-hour free consultation with you, what's happening with all these visa extensions, the people who have been stuck in Thailand either by choice or were literally stuck here because they can't get flights back or problems with getting back to their own countries? What's the current status?
Well, I would say the Thai immigration, they've been granted a level of discretion that they don't normally have, and that's been granted pursuant to the sort of authority granted under the emergency decree. So they have the ability to, provide extensions sort of for folks that need them. Now, the question arises is who needs them? I can tell you from personal experience, we've seen cases involving folks who have arrived post-March last year, so after this all got going, where they did have trouble maintaining, extension status on these kind of discretionary extensions. I won't necessarily say it's overly commonplace, but it does happen. Meanwhile, you're also seeing the folks that did get stuck here, they're able to continue to be here. Now, how long that remains, the case remains to be seen.
Chris, you've got a good one there about the good old mask question.
Yeah. Here's a question here, and this is one that I wonder. Do you think the police will stop targeting foreigners that are not wearing masks when exercising, yet ignoring the groups of locals sitting socializing on the beach without masks?
Masks. Ben, what's your thought on that?
Well, my thought on masks, I'm ambivalent to say the least on the issue of masks. I don't, just in a general context, I don't know that the data is there that these requirements are really warranted, especially in light of the fact that the WHO even says outdoors it's not necessary.
I'll probably remind you, however, that it is currently a law in Thailand. So,
well, it's a law it's a regulation that, in my opinion, is based on a rather spurious analysis of a specific section of the Communicable Diseases Act. I could go into that, but I don't think they have authority to compel people to do something. They may have the authority to compel people to not do something, but compelling people to affirmatively do something under the act, I don't see where they have that authority. That said, as far as targeting of foreigners, I haven't noticed it personally. In fact, and I also think maybe there's been a little bit of exaggeration on that, but yeah, it does happen, and I know folks that have had to deal with it. Do I think it will continue? I'm not sure. I suspect as cooler heads prevail and people kind of calm down about this, hopefully sooner rather than later, hopefully in correlation with the vaccine rollout, we'll start to see that issue calm down.
All right, we're going to have another quick break. I'm going to come back and ask Chris about what he thinks about that particular issue of foreigners being targeted in regards to masks. But for now, thank you all the people that are sending in all the questions. We'll get to as many as we can. We've got Ben Hart from Integrity Legal there in Bangkok, and here in the studio, Christopher Lau from Sea Lau Travel, back right after this. And back on Good Morning Thailand. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are and whatever time it is in your part of the world. Ben and Chris. Now, Chris, we were just going to ask your comments. You've been floating around Phuket for the past month or so. What do you think this issue is with targeting foreigners? Have you been targeted?
For me personally, I've never been targeted. I don't know of any stories or anything of anyone who has been targeted. I could see how some people can see it happening, but I could also definitely see how, I've seen tourism in Thailand before, like right now, and I can completely understand what people are saying.
I suppose people think that you're Thai.
Some people, especially when I throw a mask on, they don't know, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
I've had no issues. So I think it might be a cultural thing. I don't know what it is, but it happens sometimes. But for me, it hasn't. I haven't had no issues.
Last night, I'm not sure if you cast your eyes up to the sky, but there was an explosion and some mysterious greenish turquoise glow in the skies. I'm not exactly sure where this is, but they're saying the north of Thailand. It was a big meteor shower. Did you catch that, Ben?
I saw the article. I didn't myself actually get to look at it, unfortunately.
Well, if you didn't see it, it didn't happen. That's the way the law works, isn't it? Pretty much. Did you catch
Pretty
that
close.
one?
I did not, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it was so cloudy in Phuket. I did go outside. I understand that there is a bit of a meteor shower at the moment, but there was so much cloud. Didn't see anything. So after being marauded by mosquitoes, I went back inside. Another question.
Yeah, we have another question. So I'm 37 now, and I'm hoping to retire in Thailand in my early to mid 40s. Is an education visa my only option to make this happen? Under 50s visa.
Oh, there's a difficult one. Okay, wants to come into Thailand with an education visa, and then he's 30. He's going to be yes. He's not 50. All right, Ben, over to you with that one.
Yeah.
Long stay.
Yeah, education visas sort of once almost a mainstay of certain expats here in Thailand. Definitely in a lot greater level of disuse now. Folks definitely aren't using education visas to the same volume they once were. I usually advise people, and this is more in a general context, again, specific cases are going to require specific analysis, but in a general sense, I think education visas are not an overly viable option, especially, there was the era here of the sort of, Thai language education visa. It was almost ubiquitous 5-7 years ago. Definitely not overly useful for folks now. Now, there are other options. For example, you've got, those who are sort of stuck in Thailand, there's that discretionary visa we discussed before, but that's kind of an ad hoc thing. You can't really rely on that long term. If you're married to Thai, obviously there's a marriage visa, there's the business visa option if you're looking to work here or do business here. And then of course there's the elite visa, although that may be out of the price range of some folks. But yeah, there are definitely options out there, and I would probably explore things other than the education visa. I would not make that my first choice.
Money helps, either through the elite visa
Always.
system or, of course, being able to hire a qualified immigration or visa consultant or agent. What else have we got there, Chris?
We got a question. Do you think the health insurance requirement for retirement visa will change?
Yeah, this is for COVID or general health
that's
insurance?
kind of on the lips. Yeah, general health insurance, I think unlikely. I think this COVID-19 insurance that everybody's been talking about the last 10 days, for those who aren't aware of that, they've sort of come out and said, look, all OA visas are going to require that. We've yet to actually see the rules come out on that, so remains to be seen exactly how that's going to look. I would not be banking on them getting rid of the general health insurance anytime soon. Now, for those who are unaware, there is a big difference between OA retirement status and O retirement status. As of the time of us talking here, O retirement status does not require insurance in order to maintain one's status. So there may be options for those who are looking to be retired in Thailand, but I would not expect to see them repeal the general health insurance requirements associated with the OA visa anytime soon.
Paul Saunders says, question, Tim, will you be getting your vaccine jab on the live feed? I'll probably be crying and screaming, so probably not. I don't think people want to see that. I don't want to see that. I haven't had a vaccine for a long, long time. Actually, I don't think I've had any sort of injection. Was the last time you had an injection?
I think 3 years ago for an Africa trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did they inoculate you for that?
Oh,
Yellow
fever was
yellow
one.
fever.
I think it was yellow fever and hepatitis or something. It was a couple of things.
Before we let you go, Ben, there's protests in the city today. The police are lining up. Do you know what they are why they're picking today?
It's my understanding it's the anniversary of, I believe it's the anniversary of the revolution in 32.
That's right, the Siamese Revolution, when Thailand changed from an absolute monarchy to a constitutional monarchy. Well done, you've passed the exam. Do you think it's going to be an issue? I mean, the protesters have been a bit quiet for 3 or 4 months. We haven't seen them much around Bangkok. Do you expect to see a lot of them out today?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, all of these have been quite a bit subdued compared to what we went through up here in 2010, and I was definitely here for that. We're based in Ceylon. I live in Ceylon. Felt like living in a demilitarized zone there for a while, at least a month. So compared to that, it's all been, in my opinion, a little bit subdued. Now, the last set of protests, that did kind of affect me and where I live. I would say today it's probably going to be a little bit calmer than people are expecting. But as you probably know with these things, they kind of build into a crescendo and they kind of gain momentum over time. So I wouldn't necessarily say that things are going to get particularly crazy today, but weeks and months from now, I think it could kind of build up.
All right, you're just starting to break up a bit there with your sound, Ben. What we might do at the moment is say thank you very much for joining us today. We've got links to your business underneath this particular video, and maybe we'll catch up with you every couple of weeks. There's plenty of legal stuff we can talk to you about. Thank you very much for being on the Thaiger today. We'll try and we'll hand the hat around the office and see if we can buy some better internet up there in Bangkok. Thanks for joining us. Ben Hart there from Integrity Legal. Right, Chris, let's go through a few more of these questions before we finish today.
Yeah. So let's see. I saw a question: will kids be separated from their parents if sick during the Sandbox?
We don't know. I mean, it's a really difficult one. I think Ben would probably concur that it's unlikely that they're going to sort of separate kids from parents. I don't know how they're going to cope with it, though, and that would be a legal nightmare. And I think you probably need to get some good advice on that before you actually travel to Thailand, have a talk to your consulate. What else have we got?
Can immigration force you to get a vaccine?
At the moment, the Sandbox is for people who are arriving in Phuket fully vaccinated. Now, you can come to Thailand and go to an ASQ hotel and do the 14-day quarantine, but I think the question may be, would immigration force you if you're going to get like a renewal? And we just don't know at the moment. At the moment, it's not the case, but maybe in the future. We don't know. As Ben rightly said, we can't predict the future. At the moment, it's not the case, but maybe in the future. We don't know. As Ben rightly said, we can't predict the future. Thanks, Ben. We'll be in touch from Brad. Yeah, Ben's a good guy, and we apologise for the problems we were having with his sound at the end there. Got a few more to go, and we'll wrap things up.
Can a traveller go straight from quarantine in Bangkok to Phuket without restrictions?
I think at the moment they're saying that there will be special flights from a designated terminal or transit terminal at Bangkok. So if you arrive into the city, there will be some flights, obviously with Thai Airways, into Phuket, so you can join the Sandbox. Once again, those details haven't been announced. Hope they will very, very soon.
There's a question I saw, when will the list of countries be announced that is allowed?
Those lists are available now. There are some surprises on there. Some of the countries that are listed, some of the ones in the red zone, I think like Sweden was included, which was quite surprising. But that list is going to be coming out every couple of weeks and updated, and we'll make sure those lists go on the Thaiger.
How many COVID tests do you need after arrival in Phuket?
Well, I think it's a total of about 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think it's around 3 or 4, yeah.
There'll be, obviously you have to be tested before you come. You have to have one when you arrive. And I think there's another one on day 5.
Day 5, yeah.
Yeah,
And then once you're released.
And then once you're released, so that's 4.
4, yeah, 3 or 4, yeah.
4 that we know of for the Sandbox. Right, guys, we've so many questions.
Yeah, does anyone know if the Sandbox gets published into the Royal Gazette today? We answered that before.
We hope it's going to be today, but it usually happens 2 or 3 days after the cabinet meetings. But we won't know until we know. And when we know, we'll be the first to tell you on thetiger.com.
How much is the cost of each COVID test? Do you know the average cost or anything?
I think it's somewhere around about 2,000 baht. I think they'll be able to test you at your hotel, and then you will... the first test you have, they're saying that the test you get at the airport, you'll have to wait in your hotel room until they get the results of that test through. So that could take, I don't know, maybe a few hours or even a day.
Hopefully, yeah.
But all these sort of things, as soon as we know how they happen, we'll pass that on. Oh, I should mention that we're going to be doing the program from a cafe from the 1st of July, sort of our part of getting involved in the Sandbox. So we might get a free coffee if we can drag you back next week.
Okay, yeah, we'll see, yeah.
It's going to be at the Wire, Wire Cafe in Cheung Talay, Phuket. So we're going to be there for a whole week, so people will be able to come along and throw things at us, which will be fun. All right, one more, and then we might have a quick chat about your mentor program.
Sure. How will the Sandbox be affected if Bangkok goes into a 7-day lockdown?
Yeah, this is interesting. If Bangkok does go into a 7-day lockdown, and at the moment it's only sort of being mulled by the CCSA, I think they sort of threw out the carrot just to see how people would react. It shouldn't affect the Phuket program. I mean, Phuket is an hour's flight away from Bangkok. It's sort of a 12, 14-hour drive. It's an island. It's contained, and I think they're sort of ready to contain and control Phuket no matter what happens in Bangkok. You've got this mentor program that you do.
Yes.
You keep on saying, "Oh, I've got this mentor program. I've got to go." I said, "What is it?"
So I teach creators. There's a lot of creators who wants to be able to live the lifestyle of working with hotels, working with a tourism board, working with different brands. That's their goals as a creator. And I teach creators how to do that, how to reach out to decision makers properly, how to write an email, how to essentially speak the language of a marketing person. So they're able to get collaborations, get stays at free hotels to do work for photos, eventually get paid projects with tourism boards, airlines, and more. A lot of creators, they don't know how to do that. I think a lot of creators, they don't have the background in business skills and mindset that I do. I've worked at LinkedIn, I've worked in the corporate sales world for 10 years, and I've realized all the strategies that I've learned there is what I use today to essentially travel for free.
Is it sort of in a Thai context, or are you talking about Asia generally?
I'm talking about just globally. It's a global context.
Okay.
Yeah, global context. My students are all over the world, and the process and everything works everywhere. It's just business, sales and business.
All right, very interesting. So how can people get in contact with you if they'd like to find out more about what you do?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Lau Travel. I also have Lau Travel Mentor Program. That's also another one. So that's the specific one for my mentor program. So you can find that. Or you can find my YouTube channel, which is Christopher Lau. It's primarily a lot of on Thailand videos, like the last year, obviously, but I typically have a lot of travel videos all over the world.
Roy says that Koh Chang was awesome. Oh, it's disappeared already. Where is it? Koh Chang was awesome last week. Many businesses still closed. Some areas very hard hit. The beaches are empty and looking pristine. Thank you, Roy. And thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Infinite Time, Sapa Lot. All those people, thank you very much for joining us on the program today. Thank you to Ben Hart from Integrity Legal. Thank you to you.
Thank you for having me. We appreciate it.
We sort of call we're trying to come up with a name for the role of the person sitting there. I call it the door bitch, because you're sort of controlling who's coming in through the door. Moderator, what was the one you came up with? The gatekeeper. That's probably more appropriate. Why do you wear a hat?
That's me. I used to play a lot of tennis, and I would wear a hat for tennis, and now I just wear it everywhere.
Okay, he does have hair under there, by the way.
I do.
I can confirm that. Maybe I should start wearing a hat. Christopher, thank you very much for joining us on Good Morning Thailand. Hope you might give us some more of your time in coming weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to commit to that on camera, is he? Thank you to Jason and Jay, and thank you to you. We do look forward to seeing you tomorrow on another Good Morning Thailand.